I see that some of you guys are kind of struggling with the Desmos assignment, so I thought I'd kind of go through it. So here we are in the assignment there, and I'm going to click on slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines here. Okay. Then the class code is already there for Desmos, so I'm going to go ahead and hit join. Okay. All right. I'm going to continue activity, and I'm just going to start from the beginning. All right, the first thing they ask you to do is to adjust the sliders M and B to graph a line parallel to the dotted purple line through the given point. So I want the line here, I want this blue. If I change the slider, you see it's going to change, the slope is changing. And then here, I'm changing the y-intercept. So what I want is I want the line to be parallel to, I want this blue line to be parallel to this purple line, dotted line, and I want it to go through that point. Now, and parallel lines have the same slope. Now, I'm going to try to make this line match it. It looks like it's a positive slope, so I'm going to go, and that looks pretty good. All right. Now, these lines are parallel, but I want this line to go through that point. And so that was the point. That's what you should have done on the first one. Okay. Let's go to the next problem. So it told you the slope of the purple line is 2. So what was the slope of the blue line after you made it parallel? Well, if I went back, I look at the line that I made, the slope is 2. So it ended up also with a slope of 2. Okay. So, and I see some people were able, now Terry uh, answered this with 2, and some other folks answered with other numbers, but the slope of the line should have been 2. Okay. So let's look at this. Um, Now they ask me to adjust the sliders M and B to graph a line parallel to the dotted purple line through the given point. So another example. So I want this line, blue line, to be parallel to the purple line through that point. Again, I'm going to adjust my slope first. It looks like it's a negative slope, so I'm going to go that way. I'm going to get that. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use the B to change the y-intercept until it goes to that point. There. So my line is y equals to a negative half x plus b. That's what my line is. So let's go to the next there. And good, the slope of the purple line was negative 1/2. What was the slope of the blue line after you made it parallel? It was also a negative 1/2. And if I share that with the class, I see that some other folks uh, see some other folks. There are some of the other answers I got. Okay, so let's go on. All right. Now it asks me to graph a perpendicular line. A perpendicular line. So I'm going to adjust my slider this time until, and I'm just only have one slider to adjust the line until they look like they're perpendicular. So I'm going to look, to me, that's pretty doggone close, something like that. All right. Uh, I'm noticing that my original line is 5a, and my line is negative 1 over 4a. So something tells me if I make this a 5, that looks pretty close there. So now notice that a is 5. Okay, so my line is y equals to negative 1/5 a. That's what my line is. Okay, so let's go to next. So this is Ethan's solution, whoever Ethan is. Are these lines perpendicular? How do you know? It says use the sketch tool on the graph if that helps you to understand your thinking. And so the situation is, if I use my sketch tool here, pencil, if it's perpendicular, it should look like that. That looks pretty close. So I'm gonna say they look perpendicular. but I can't say for sure. All right. And so how the y-intercepts, now this time they're asking how are the y-intercepts of parallel lines related? Well, the y-intercepts are different. Different. For instance, the y-intercept, intercept of the blue line is -1, but the y-intercept, I cannot type, of the affix of the dotted line, sorry about that, is 4. All right. I just want to fix it. And so I'll share that with class. Okay. So now I'm going to graph a perpendicular line. And I'm going to, let's graph a perpendicular line. So it says adjust the sliders A and B to graph a line perpendicular to the dotted line. And you can see that's pretty doggone close. Now, notice that I got a 2/3 there. So I'm going to change my A value to like 3. And I'm going to make my B value 2. And that looks perfect. That looks pretty good. All right. So Shania says the slopes of perpendicular lines always have opposite signs. One is always positive and one is always negative. Do you agree? Yes. The opposite of positive I cannot spell positive is negative and vice versa. So here's this line. Oh, his line's perpendicular? No, they not. The opposite reciprocal of -2/3 is 3/2. But his slope is 4/3. So graph a perpendicular line. All right, so if I was trying to graph a perpendicular line, here is my y equals to 2x plus 1, and I want to get the line is perpendicular to this line through that point. Okay, here's the point just so you can see it labeled. There it is. Okay, I'm going to adjust my slider to the opposite reciprocal of 2, which is a -1/2. So I already got it there. So I need my m to be a -1/2. And this is where it gets to be kind of tough because I really need a negative. Oh, there it is. -1/2. -1/2. That's a -1.5. That's a -1/2. So on the other screens, you needed 2 lines to graph the slope. In this screen, you only need 1. So that might, some of you might have gotten lost there. But that's my slope. Now, that's my perpendicular, but notice that it doesn't go through the point 0, 3, 1. So I'm going to have to take the y-intercept up, and then that's what we want. Okay, so let's do one more. All right, here's my original line. I need the slope of my perpendicular line needs to be the opposite reciprocal of 4, which is a -1/4. And that's in decimal, a -1/4 is a -0.25. See? You need the opposite reciprocal. And then you just need to adjust your y-intercept until it goes through the point. And there you go. All right? So how are the slopes of perpendicular lines related? Okay. The slope of perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals, which we learned in class or in the lesson flipped. Okay. And I'm going to close with this problem. Might as well finish it. Say I had a point, 3, 1, and I want to find a line perpendicular to the lines y equals 3x through 3, 1. I'm going to write the equation of the line, and I'm going to do it in point slope form because that's the easiest way to do it. So I need my slope to be a -1/3. So and I need my point to be 3, 1. So it's going to be y minus, they already gave me the y value. I needed to go through this point 3, 1. So I'm going to need the y value there. Oops, I already got a plus there. Equals, I already said we needed the slope to be a -1/3 and x minus 3. So if I submit that, that's the answer. All right. And to explain my thinking, again, the opposite, I keep saying the opposite reciprocal of 3 is a -1/3. I used the 1, 3, 1, 4, x 1, 4, comma, x1, comma, y1, and substitute it. Substituted? How do I spell that word? Substituted. All right, these goes into the what slope form. And that was the whole assignment there. And I'll leave the other, if I wish there was a way here I could actually check here, but I'm going to stop right there. That was 15 minutes.